Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with a 40k tactics video. I am joined by Kieran, who hopefully will be providing all the insight here because I'm a bloody idiot. So what we're going to be talking about today is deployment. Specifically, setting up your army in a very specific way and the power of infiltrate. So this is a board that we've just set up. We're going to be playing a game on this. I don't know if we're going to do a battle report. But we could do. But this is a board that we just set up. It's a completely arbitrary board, and we just want to talk about a few things to do with deployment. Because you said it, 90% of the game...
If you're playing against an opponent with similar armies and similar skill, most of the game will be won or lost in deployment. Simple as really. So, what I kind of mean by that is, there's obvious things like set up heavy weapon squads and anti-tank stuff where they can see tanks. All the stuff that people will do.
Yeah.
But there's slightly more to it than that as well. Because the main way I play, especially with Harlequins and with my Nids, is sort of like a refused flag kind of a thing. Oh, Alpha.
I'll let Kieran go deal with the dog and I'll just keep talking. So yeah, what Kieran's talking about is kind of an overload strategy. So here's our board, and this is going to be the deployment zone as we set up arbitrarily. And so what Kieran's talking about is the idea of completely saying to your opponent, I don't care about this flank. Here's one that you're going to have to deal with. So if we look at this board, we've sort of agreed between the two of us that this section is a bit dead. Yeah. There may be an objective marker in here during the game, but it's a bit dead. This is a good little fire-based zone. It's annoying because there's some terrain, but if you want to set up, you can. And there's a similar sort of idea over here. So let's set this up, because what would you do in this situation? I'm going to ask people at home to think, what would you do in this situation? Because I look at this as a Tau player and I'm thinking, okay, Fire Warriors in here, probably something here, maybe like a Piranha, so it's a little bit protected. And then this is a little bit of a death corridor, so not sure what I'll do with it, but I'll probably put something in here so I can stop my opponent coming in and just sweeping me. And that's quite a balanced deployment. But you could try the overload, the refused flank, as you call it. So go through that.
So if we take, right, it's really easy when you've got a fast army. This, if your army's slower, you won't be playing that, but you're playing a more reactive game anyway. So what I'd probably do is I'd have something sacrificial. So we'll call that squad.
Okay.
Because that one's warlord, that one's got a lot more shooting. So that squad will go on a flank that realistically is less protected for me. So looking at the board from here.
So let's use this as our deployment zone.
That going down there leads to so much more stuff. So I can go out that way, I can go into the middle. This is a lot more awkward, so I'll probably pop this one down here. As sort of, just so that my opponent has something to deal with down this flank, which can tie him up. The rest of my army will probably be deployed. Definitely be a couple of things deployed down here. Pop that there. We'll have like I said, heavy weapons and things want somewhere they can see from.
Yeah, so this covers this corridor, this
gives them a lot of options depending on...
Well, and
obviously, if I wasn't going first, everything would be deployed hugging cover a bit more, so he'd be deployed in there.
And so on.
But it's just too fiddly at the moment. So if you put the two troops down here, and then all the jet bikes... I don't know whether I'd scream with the jet bikes or whatever, but we'll just, for simplicity's sake, we'll just pop them all down here again.
So what this has done, now you've got an infantry unit there.
An infantry unit, they'd probably go... Realistically with this, I'd pop the infantry there, because it means that if my opponent deploys heavily on this flank, I can stick the infantry in the middle and not use them as a tar pit, because it's Harlequins, but tie them up a little while because this has got ridiculous movement. You can go 12 inches and then you can flat out another 12, so I can easily get that over here if I want to. Yeah,
so what this does, so I look at this now, and I'm going to come over here, because I'm now the opponent. So I'm looking at this, and all of a sudden, I'm going to myself, oh my goodness me. This flank is now completely overloaded. But there's still a threat over here. I can't afford to leave that alone, because it's ridiculously fast, and particularly as a Tau player, it's Harlequins. Yeah. They're ridiculously fast, they've got good psychic, some decent shooting, and are ridiculously good in melee. Can't afford to leave them alone. But I've got all of this to deal with. Yeah. Holy hell, how the hell am I going to deal with all of that? So, what that's done... Just think about your thought process. If you see that, you're going to have to think, how do I deal with that? This sort of goes to the back of your mind, and how do I deal with that? And you set up to counter it. And particularly if you're deploying second, you are probably going to be playing a bit of a counteracted deployment. But that is flank denial. It's basically said, this flank is mine.
Yeah.
If you want it, you're going to have to overcommit like hell to taking it. Meanwhile, there's a unit over here. This is a nuisance. It's fast, it's powerful enough, and you're going to have to deal with it. But if you deal with it with anything of any power, well, you've probably overcommitted to it.
Yeah.
Which means that I've got the numerical advantage over here, and all of a sudden you're in trouble again.
And if Mike decided, oh, okay, well, this is the problem, I'm going to put lots of things that get... So something with line of sight down that corridor, great. A couple of things line of sight here. Well, all I need to do to kind of mitigate that is, if I can get this squad to here,
Yep.
it's protected from most of the stuff in that corner.
Yep.
It could probably flat out to around here. Same with these. So I can get everything now centralised.
And this entire section is completely out of the game
Yeah,
now.
and then the more stationary heavy weapons you've put on that flank
Like
are
broadsides.
functionally useless for the rest of the game.
Indeed.
Or until I choose to deal with them.
Indeed. And that's the power of flank denial. It's basically mind games.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mind games. But let's say your opponent is a genius.
Yeah.
Your opponent knows what you're up to and counter deploys. Now, I'm going to stop the recording here and I'm going to set up my Tau army because I've got something that I can show you with Infiltrate so we can understand how this works. Okay. Sorry about creaky floorboards. So, really creaky floorboards. Anyway, so this is the Tau army I've set up. I'll go over to Kieran's side because it's a little bit easier. So, this is my flank denial Tau. It's not a good build. Realistically, it's not the greatest build.
No.
But you can see what I've gone for. My Pathfinder, Piranha's over here, that's got fusion, that's got drones, that's a nuisance. Crisis teams hit really bloody hard if you want to. I've only got 2, I'll explain why in a minute. Ghost Keel, I probably built this thing wrong, but it's got a really big gun, it's a monster, it's tough, and it's basically invisible. Very annoying.
Yep.
Pathfinder team, these guys have scout and marker lights. And we all know how annoying marker lights are. And in the middle, I've made a little fire base with my fire warrior team, my fireblade. The DS8 turret wouldn't be deployed for the sake of this. That's my heavy flank. On my light flank, there's just 5 breaches and a missile side. Missile broadsides are extremely powerful at just mopping stuff up, particularly against Harlequins, but this is just a general thing. So this little flank, this little corner, doesn't really do that much, but it's annoying. And I've got an infiltrating stealth team and a deep striking crisis team led by Farsight that we're going to come back to. I probably shouldn't have Farsight there because he doesn't need what the stealth team does. But I'll keep him in just for the objective idea. So that's my setup. And now, how do you counter deploy that?
Well, the problem with this is I'm a much faster army. So I could counter deploy by basically deploying equal and opposite. But then
basically,
you can't move your broadside.
So basically what you're saying is you would overload this flank.
Yeah, if I overload this flank and have a bit on here, it forces these guys to come down. What I can then do is I can... Okay, I'll show you how to deploy, we'll come back to it and I'll run through it.
Okay, I'll just pause the recording then. Okay, here's our counter deployment. Now, obviously bear in mind this is a speedier army than my Tau, so there obviously has been some thought gone into it, but we'll go through it anyway. Let's go.
Okay, so these guys are here because it's the place that actually get most likely to get into combat, because you're going to have to come down the flank. You've got fairly short range weaponry.
Yep.
So you're going to have to come close to them. And there's a lot of places I can stick them where you'll have to get close to hurt them. So I can just pop them here,
Yep.
for instance, or I could run them around and have them there.
Yeah.
And they're going to be fairly safe from most things, and you've got to shoot at them.
Agreed.
The Void Reaver's here because turn 1 you're going to be able to move up. You're going to move things up, and you're still going to, presumably, come back down this flank.
Mm-hmm.
So Void Reaver is my best chance at plinking off a couple of wounds or crippling the Piranha. And it can do that and then scoot through here and end up in the middle.
Yeah.
The bikes are probably my best shot against the broadside because I don't want to try and engage it with a vehicle, which is what it's good at killing. So these guys can hop round to here, bike move into here where they can't really be seen as well.
Yeah, because they'll have jet bikes.
And then next turn, they can come out and attack the broadside. So that will be the plan there. Broadside isn't going anywhere.
Got you.
These guys, meanwhile, will probably turn 1, move up to behind here, and then turn 2, when I think I can take out the broadside, will be able to expose themselves a bit more.
Yeah.
But the overall plan is, apart from that squad and maybe the Void Reaver, everything kind of converges in this area.
Got it.
Because by that point, you'll have moved down to there.
Yeah, the only way I can deal with that is by coming into here.
If you come back into the middle, Then my Void Weaver's got a good line of sight on you. The Void Weaver can come up, and it's got a large blast. It can start throwing blasts down at you.
Yep.
And realistically, you're clumped in the middle again. So I can still attack down a flank. And then I'm sort of playing my game rather than playing a reactive game.
That's very true. Now, obviously, not everybody is faster than everybody else.
No.
So if you were playing an infantry army, or an infantry heavy army, let's say Marines, you might have to think very differently.
Yeah.
So for example, you might have to commit some heavy weapons that are not mobile down here, get your troops in there, and maybe put a heavy vehicle like, I don't know, a Land Raider over there, because that's something a broadside can't deal with, at least in its current state. Now, obviously Kieran has the advantage because he's got the speedy army and he's got the ability to counter me, but I have a way to counter back. And in this case, that's my stealth team. Kieran
I also have some infiltrators.
So we both have infiltrators. So we'd roll off, and I'm just going to grab a couple of dice.
Yeah. Might as well roll off.
Okay.
So, right,
Four.
try again.
No, we both rolled a 4.
Alright, 1 and 5. Okay, that's
okay.
good.
Well, that's good, because that actually gets to prove a nice point.
Yeah.
So I get to set up my infiltrators next. So I've got a 3-man stealth team with a homing beacon. The homing beacon is basically a teleport homer. I've got farsight, that doesn't matter. For the sake of discussion, carry on. So I get to set these up, and you know how infiltrators get to set up.
Yeah.
But what infiltrators get to do is take your opponent's carefully laid plan and say to F with it.
Yeah.
So obviously I can't set up within 12 inches of him, which, considering how forward these spikes are, is a problem. Because the first thing I would do is I think, right, here.
But I wouldn't if I were you.
Well, one, I can't.
But equally, even if you could probably set up like somewhere there that's out of my line of sight and 12 inches away. But they're fast, they're incredibly good at combat, you've got no supporting fire. I just come out and kill them.
Very true. But that's going to be a problem pretty much no matter where I leave them. So option 2 might be somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Again, range is an issue, but I could put them somewhere back here.
Yeah. Equally though, these guys can't run and shoot, so it's going to take them a while to get around.
Yeah, so I could go here.
Yeah.
Now, this further reinforces the flank thing, because my opponent, in this case Kieran, will know this stealth team is A, annoying, B, fast, C, not too bad at shooting, and D, carrying a homing beacon.
Yeah.
Which, if I wasn't using farsight, which I am, I mean, there is something very big and very scary that's going to come in by deep strike and not scatter.
Yeah.
And let's say if that was a riptide, which it could be in another scenario, that says to my opponent, if you had any plans of coming up this flank, forget it.
Yeah.
And that's great. So let's go with that. The other option would have been to deploy somewhere in the middle and try and say, if you want to come in the middle, I'm going to be annoying and I'm going to throw something in the middle.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it here because combat, I'd be very unsupported, and there's a good chance that anywhere pretty much within maybe just outside this box, the bikes are going to hit me.
Or transport you guys,
Or something's going to hit me.
Yeah.
There's no transport realistically over here because we play these walls as infinitely high. So he'd have to come round. So I'm going to put my stealth team down here-ish. And they're going to set up there, and they're saying to Kieran, something big is coming. In this case, it's farsight. Something's coming down here, and it's not going to scatter, and it's going to be a problem. And if you try and charge it, well, supporting fire.
Yeah.
And that means now Kieran has his infiltrators. Now, ironically, infiltrators going last is probably better, because you've got 3 infiltrators.
It is and it isn't, but like, because if you'd infiltrated them in the middle of the board, my infiltrating would be really like to the sides, because I can't obviously now deploy within 18 of those in line of sight.
Yes.
But realistically, what I'm going to end up doing is, with these guys, the solitaire, 100% is going to end up somewhere over here.
Got you.
He's fast, he's equally good at dealing with the broadside, and that frees up these guys to go where I want them to more.
Yeah, fallback option. Shadow Seer.
Shadow Seer is an interesting one, because she can bless herself, so she's not really worried about being shot at by those guys.
I would say here.
I was going to put her around there as well. But the problem then is, when all these guys start coming down, I want most of my army to be over there.
Correct.
So what I'd probably do more than that is sort of somewhere here.
Here, okay.
Now she's got stealth and shrouded, or she's got shrouded, sorry, because of the formation, but she'd probably want to deploy over there. But the Death Jester wants to take pride of place more than that, because he's not going to want to move as much. So I want the Death Jester somewhere where he can make a mess, but also not die.
The thing with the Death Jester as well is he's very leadership based and very good at anti-infantry. So you might want to deploy him over here, not just to reinforce the flank, but also because that's where most of my infantry is.
So with this in mind, the Death Jester will probably want to go there, So he's got line of sight on your fire warriors. He's getting the bonus of his self-shroud and things. And then the solitaire can go just near him.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't know if that's 18 inches, but...
To be fair, yeah, he might have to deploy
a little bit further,
back.
But
somewhere around there, and you can move. I don't even know if his weapon's heavy or not. I think it is.
No, I don't think Malvin Raz is, and it's the same gun.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
The Shadow Seer is kind of inconsequential because she's not going to get shot at as much because of her psychic powers and things. Depends, honestly, what psychic powers I'd roll for her. If they're all sort of support-based, she'd probably go over there.
And join, like, a trio of heroes.
Yeah, but they can't join a unit. Right?
No, but that idea.
But if they're more, like, if she's got, like, psychic scream and things, I'd probably put her somewhere like there.
Got you.
So that in my turn I can move up and try and get rid of something.
Yeah, got you.
But yeah, that's
it. So what we wanted to get across by doing this was a little alternate deployment style. Now I know most of you probably are better than me and probably better than Kieran at this game.
Yeah.
So you probably know all of this stuff. If anything, I'm doing it to teach myself about deploying properly.
Yeah.
But what it's saying is sometimes you've just got to make your opponent react to you. I've said it before in aggro, tempo, momentum lists. It's making your opponent do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Play your game, and then they're not playing theirs.
Yeah.
And if they try and play their game while you're playing your game, well, you've got the initiative, you've got the tempo, and you'll just run them over, which is the really good thing. Now, obviously, my list isn't adapted for this type of playstyle. Miles has got a lot too much infantry for this playstyle to work, particularly against Harlequins.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do it this way for this list. But if I were playing a proper aggro Tau, where I was running Devilfishes and I was running a Rapid Insertion Force, which is a formation with Stealth, Crisis and Riptide, which comes with a basically free homing beacon and a Retaliation card draw with all deep strikes on turn 2, suddenly that stealth team becomes absolutely flipping terrifying. Because this board's bad for it, but set them up in some cover. They've got stealth and shrouders. They've got basically a 2-up, or at the very worst, a 4-up cover save all the time. And if your opponent doesn't deal with them, well, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Units. That flank is gone.
Yeah.
Completely gone. And that means now, yeah, okay, all my army's over here, but it's jetpack infantry. So, wipe you out. Boing.
Yeah.
And like I said, this isn't the army for it. That is. So Kieran set it up better than me, but that's just because of the armies that we happen to be running at the time. Now, one of the more terrifying tricks you can do is the all-infiltrate army.
I love doing that one. Especially with my Tyranids, now that the Eugene Silicult stuff's got rules and stuff.
Yeah, so why don't you talk us about why that's so good?
The really nice thing about an all-infiltrating list is, regardless of whether you're going first or not, going first is great, but actually counter-deploying is almost worth as much. So, depends what army you're playing against. If you're playing against a close combat army, why would you care about going first? They're not going to be able to shoot you much, and they're going to come close into your range. So against close combat armies, I choose to go second the majority of the time.
Yeah.
But infiltrate, like an all-infiltrating list, allows you to go first, have the first turn, and counter-deploy.
Yeah.
So you could set up that army, and knowing that I've got the first turn, and you've no idea where anything of mine is.
Okay.
So my example with my Tyranids was I took the Gene Stealer Cult, I took Gene Stealers, a Lictor, and then the Hive Vanguard formation, which is a Hive Tyrant, some Warriors, and some Gargoyles against a Deep Strike.
Yep.
I think that was pretty much the list. Right?
That pretty much was the list.
Yeah. So all you see deployed is a unit of Warriors, a Flying Hive Tyrant that can move anywhere, and Gargoyles that are immediately going to change positions.
Yeah, because they get to Deep Strike as part of the formation.
So the only thing you can deploy against with your going second is a unit of 3 Warriors sat on an objective in my deployment zone.
Pretty much.
Which is awful to try and deploy against.
Yep, basically. Now, the question I raise, obviously the all-infiltrate list is powerful. How powerful is an all-scout list? Like, an army that comes...
Depends, honestly, what your scouts are. All-scout, when they're bikers and things, they've got 12-inch movement, is good, because you can redeploy...
Yeah, scouting flesh
a fair chunk of the way. Scouting for the majority of things, like Pathfinders and stuff, is just to...
Redeploy.
Slightly redeploy, yeah. So you can get them somewhere, and then if they've got heavy weapons, it means they can redeploy without snap firing.
Yeah, because there's a part of me that says, okay, here's my scouts, and I've seen yours. I've set a lot of my scouting units sort of here-ish.
Yeah.
And make you think, okay, there's a nice big base, I'll just deal with it.
And then they all spread out.
And they either spread, or they all move in one direction to try and block line of sight. I don't know. Obviously, compared to a little infiltrator, it's weak.
Scout to me isn't really a deployment sort of ability. It's more of it's a free move.
It's a free move, yes.
Yeah. So,
but you can redeploy it.
Scout in my deployment phase, but I'd use it to not redeploy, but put things. Give me an extra turn to get somewhere.
You can deploy around Scout though. For example.
Yeah.
I mean, I come back to my aggressive Counter-Strike card list. That doesn't have Scout, but one does because it's got Pathfinders in it.
Yeah.
So I've got one Scouting Devilfish and everything's fast.
Yeah.
On turn 1. So what I can do...
That Devilfish has 24 inches.
That Devilfish has basically got 24 inches of movement.
When things can move 12 inches, it becomes more than just a free move.
Yeah, it becomes a proper deployment strategy. So that was just a few thoughts on deployment.
Yeah.
Now, we can't say that if you know how to deploy, you'll win games.
No.
We can't say that.
But it's a good start.
It's definitely a really big step in the right direction. Anyway, I'm going to redeploy off camera and we'll go and play again because I would never use this deployment in this army.
I'll probably deploy in a very similar manner.
Yes, you probably will and you'll probably wreck my face with it. Anyway, that is our thoughts on deployment and infiltrators and everything else. Just try and set up your way. And if you're going to play a sort of rounded army, think about the flank. Because if you commit to one flank, like I have here, then your opponent basically has half a board to deal with you against a lot of army. Particularly if you're deploying, you can even use the flank denial to go second.
Yeah.
So for example, if I was going second, I could have done this after Kieran had deployed.
Yeah.
Even if Kieran, let's say Kieran was doing a bit more of a balanced list and he'd gone uniformly across. Let's say he was playing orcs and had a huge horde had to fill up.
Deploy everything everywhere.
And I will just commit to one flank, take my opponent's half their army out of the game, and then if I've got any infiltrators to make it even more of a nuisance, for example, let's say commit over here, I can then put my stealth team over here and say, well, this flank's going to collapse you, but if you don't collapse these stealth teams, then I've got another half an army coming in that's going to collapse this one, and then you're screwed.
To make this work, you need a unit that you don't really mind dying, but your opponent doesn't want to leave alive.
Yeah, particularly something like carrying a teleport homer, something with a good combat potential, some good psychic powers, but aren't intrinsic to your army winning. Yeah. It's a nasty unit.
Like a throwaway unit.
Yeah, throwaway but nasty.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all for today. I just thought to get this little video and I thought it might be useful to some people and it's definitely been of use to me. So if you want to see more like this where we talk through a phase, like trying to explain our actions as we go, maybe a different style of battle report, do let us know in the comments below because I think it'd be something quite interesting to take on. Anyway, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Michael with Tactica Imperialis with Kieran. And we will see you all again. Bye for now.